Today we're here with Alex Mayer. Alex has been in town this week. They out of Cincinnati, but with the NIOSH team, and maybe a few of you guys saw us around to the different stations. Um, they came in, and on Tuesday we were in Des Moines. We did the AMT building, Station 1, Station 8, Station 7, and Station 11. And so we went out and took some readings, looked at the stations, kind of got a better understanding of, or gave them a better understanding of how our stations operate, and showed them around the facilities. And then they took some monitoring, things like that. But Alex agreed to come in. He's also with the cancer registry, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what they did here with the air quality study, and then also fill us in on a little bit about the cancer registry and what's going on with that and how we can help them, and in so doing so help ourselves. So I'll turn it over to you, Alex, and tell us a little bit about the NIOSH study and what you guys were doing.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to start by saying thanks for having us. We're really happy to be here in Des Moines over the past few days, and thanks for having me on to talk more about, the diesel exhaust exposure assessment that we've been starting over the past few days, in addition to the NFR. I'll start with the diesel exhaust exposure assessment. That really came about. Fire Marshal Lund reached out a couple years ago and was interested in different diesel exhaust emission capture systems. So obviously at Des Moines, Station 11 has the emission capture direct connect system, and the other stations that we toured have aeration filters that filter out the diesel exhaust. And so they were curious, what's the best practice for removing diesel exhaust from a fire station. So that sort of started the conversation, and then Fire Marshal Lund also looped in Ankeny and West Des Moines Fire Department, who have a couple different types of diesel exhaust capture systems. So together, the three departments put in a request for a health hazard evaluation, and that's something that NIOSH, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, offers the public for requests like this. So we were able to come in and sort of do an initial evaluation of, the HVAC systems, the flow of air in the different fire stations, and how things are moving, temperature. We also looked at carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide and some particle counts. So more on like a qualitative side. It's not anything scientific that we would publish, but sort of a first go at it, just so we could understand the lay of the land and be better prepared for when we're likely going to be coming out and doing some more full-scale monitoring or sampling either later this year or early next year.
Gotcha. And then so kind of along that same lines, what is next? How did things progress from here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in a couple weeks, we'll be sending out what's called a 10-day letter. And that's will be sent to the fire department as well as the union at each state or each fire department that we visited. And that's, public information you can share with the department, the firefighters. And then that'll also outline some next steps where we'll be coming out over probably in the next couple months. Don't want to get a timeline down because
Sure.
things may change, but we'll be coming out and doing some more full-scale monitoring, which could include things like some emissions from some things that are in diesel exhaust that we know exist. So we may do some air monitoring, both in the Bay Area and potentially in living quarters, other areas throughout the fire stations, just to see, how much diesel is coming into the fire station, both in the Bay and is any going into the living quarters as well.
Nice. And now this is kind of something not necessarily new, but you guys haven't done a lot of this in the fire service, have you yet?
Yeah, it's pretty limited. We did a literature search beforehand, and actually Fire Marshal Lund was pretty instrumental in that. He provided a lot of the information. But we worked together and looked, there's a few studies, one from Canada that was published 5 or 6 years ago now, a couple others. There was one other health hazard evaluation looking at diesel exhaust maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But as far as looking at these different emission capture systems, I don't think anybody's done this where we're looking at the different ones. So I think it's information that's really important for the fire service and understanding, the best use of their funds and
Right.
available resources, and best trying to, reduce exposures for firefighters.
Right. I think one of the things that I found um, when they first started talking about exhaust capture systems, or even just the scrubber style that we have at a lot of our stations, there wasn't much data out there on what they really do and,
Right.
and that kind of thing. And so hopefully this will help us better understand. In theory, we know that Station 11, we've really tried to work hard. Station 4 will be kind of a similar situation. And that's what kind of part of this is to make sure that what we believe at Station 11 to be good really is doing its job. And so I'm excited to see how that all looks and what comes out of that. So we
Yeah,
sure appreciate you guys coming. You guys had a little bit of a travel delay as well.
we did.
Ended up having to drive out instead of fly, but
Yeah.
gonna fly home.
Yeah, so we were hoping to be out on Monday, and we were actually going to talk at the union meeting
Yep.
Monday evening, but our flights got canceled or moved, and we missed those. So we ended up driving out. It's about 8.5 hours. But we were able to make it out for Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
So it all worked out.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we really appreciate you coming back today and sitting down with us because it's important information. One of the other things, and Fire Marshal Lund, we have to give him a little credit because he's been really good for us in Des Moines Fire, as far as we've been involved now in a female firefighter cancer research project, as well as our fire investigators have been
Right.
involved in a cancer research project. And so he's really kind of gone above and beyond and really looking at what some of the state of the art things we can do, even on the lines of sleep and things like that, and ergonomics in the stations. So we appreciate that. Now, you've worked with him in the past.
I
And so,
have, yeah. So I actually work on the firefighter cancer cohort study that you just referenced, and led the investigator study, the portion that I worked with Chief Lund or Fire Marshal Lund on.
nice.
So yeah, I've experience working with him, and yeah, I've seen him at conferences around the country, giving presentations. So yeah,
Good, good. Well, why don't we lead with that? We'll lead into the National Firefighter Cancer Registry and tell us a little bit about that and what you do with that and how that all works.
yeah, that sounds great. Thanks. So I'm sure most of you are aware, but firefighters are at an increased risk of developing cancer. And in fact, in 2022, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, or IARC, classified firefighting as a Group 1 known carcinogen. Um, so, there are some questions that have been answered about firefighting and cancer, but there are still several unanswered questions about what it is about firefighting that may increase cancer risk. We're out here this week talking about diesel exhaust, but there's also, structural fire responses, as well as wildland urban interface, wildland fire responses, differences maybe by geographical region, what's included in buildings, in Boston Fire Department or versus Phoenix, the age of the city may play a part in what the exposures may look like. So that's, something that we hope the National Firefighter Registry will be able to answer some of those questions by asking firefighters from across the country to participate in this project.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Tell us a little bit about how we do that and like what some of that information does for you guys and what you're doing with it. And yeah, how do we get signed up?
Yeah, so signing up is fairly easy. You can go to nfr.cdc.gov to start the registration process. We ask that you go through login.gov. That's who we work with to create the accounts. And so through login.gov, we get multi-factor authentication, and that's for security purposes. So you know that the information you're providing us will be secure. Nobody will be able to sign in and see anything that you enter. After that, you provide a user profile section where we ask some questions just about your first and last name, residential address, some things that may change over time. We also get your consent. This is a voluntary project and nobody can force you to join. So that's part of the registration process as well. And then there's a questionnaire that includes some questions about your work history, as well as demographics, lifestyle, and health history. Depending on the firefighter, it could take anywhere from, 20 minutes if you're a new recruit to maybe upwards of 45 to 60 minutes if you have a pretty comprehensive work history. We do ask a lot of questions about your work history. We're trying to get a comprehensive understanding of complete exposures for firefighters. So it goes back, we ask you to estimate your exposures from your time starting as a firefighter. But you can get started in as short as 5 minutes, go through and create the account, consent. And then, if you're just doing that on your phone and you want to finish on your computer, that's something I know a lot of folks end up doing that I think is helpful. Um, and then once you're, finished, it is a one-time thing, registration. We will have follow-up questionnaires that firefighters can participate in if they're interested, and we'll send those out periodically. But that's not necessary for us to do what we're trying to do, which is to evaluate cancer risk across the country.
Nice.
And the way that we're evaluating cancer is actually through state cancer registries. So we do ask for self-reported cancer in the questionnaire itself. But the gold standard for obtaining cancer diagnosis information is actually through state cancer registries. So cancer is a reportable illness in all 50 states. That means that if you get cancer, your doctor reports it up to the state, and the information that you provide to us, your first and last name, date of birth, sex assigned at birth, and then partial social security number, last 4 digits. All of that is information that we can use to link with state cancer registries from across the country. And that allows us to get sort of the best gold standard cancer data that we'll be able to compare to the general population and see, what cancer risk looks like for firefighters compared to the general population.
Nice. How's that going overall? I mean, do you got folks signing up, hopefully?
Yeah, it's been really, really successful. So we started at FDIC last year in 2023, had a big rollout. My supervisor, Dr. Kenny Fent, was on the big stage and gave a big talk with Chief Rhodes, and really successful opening kickoff there. And over the last, year plus, we've had over 15,000 firefighters register from across the country. So it's been, successful, but we still want to keep that going. We are starting, to reach out to more fire departments and training academies. We're continuing to work through our partners. The union IFF is obviously a big supporter of this project. So we've worked with them closely, as well as for volunteer firefighters, have reached out to NVFC and IAFC. So we've tried to make sure we're hitting all the key players in the firefighter health and safety world to make sure we're bringing everybody to the table, and so that they can help us spread the word on this project as well.
Sure. We've actually heard quite a bit about it. It's really nice to have you here to kind of give that detail of what we need to do, why it's important, that kind of thing. It sounds like it's pretty painless. As we went around, we handed off some of your flyers to the stations, and we're going to put some of that information together for this, as well as there's a QR code that's associated with that.
Mhm.
Makes it really easy to get on there. You can scan that QR code with your phone, and it'll take you right to where you need to be and fill that information out. So yeah, it really seems like it's a pretty painless process. Maybe takes just a minute or two, but beyond that, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, that was our intent and hope when we created it. So hopefully everybody has that experience. And I did want to mention, we also have the opportunity, I mentioned follow-up questionnaires. We may reach out, but we may reach out with other information that might be relevant to firefighters about, cancer in the fire service. So we'll be strategic in how often we reach out. We don't want to inundate folks with a message once a week. But maybe once or twice a year, if there's an important study that came out, we might send a push notification through either email or a phone number, or a text message. We do have an option where you can opt in to get text messages if you're interested. So that's another way we may be, trying to keep communication with participants in the NFR moving forward.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us about, or anything else you want to add?
Yeah, there were. So as far as the questionnaire itself, we ask a lot of questions about comorbidities or, AFFF use, any major events that you may have gone on. But we also ask some questions about workplace practices. So how long have you been, laundering your gear? How long have you been laundering your hood? How long have you worn SCBA and fire tech, different questions like that. And I'm hoping that, through the NFR, I feel like a lot of times we give bad news to the fire service on, potential exposures. But my hope is with some of those questions, we might be able to actually find some information we can share back with the fire service where we're seeing some protective factors, where some of these things that we're, doing and the work that the union and fire departments are doing across the country and trying to reduce exposures is actually working. So this is one way, it's going to be years down the road, but hopefully we can start getting some of that data and share that back with the fire service.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of the cultural change, and we're starting to really see it. It's been impressive because, my time in the career has seen a lot occur, and it just seems like we've really made some good progress in maybe last 10 years, but for sure in the last 5 of, looking at our gear, how we're putting it away, how we're carrying it back, how we're deconning it, how we're deconning ourselves, the flow through the stations, the air quality, things like that. I mean, those are just things that we didn't really think about not all that long ago, but I'm really starting to see a cultural change and shift. And I think this is a big part of it. It keeps it on your mind and keeps you thinking about those things. And that research, hopefully, in the next few years, we start seeing some of that information coming out to help us better um,
Yeah.
improve those things.
Yeah, I really, really hope so too. And I did want to mention it's not like an official NIOSH stance, but walking through Station 11, it really is a state of the art facility and something, I think it'd be great if we could, share that information with across the country with other fire departments, because I think that's, from a NIOSH researcher's perspective, you can just see how much thought and time and care was put into the design and trying to think about gross decon, getting folks over to shower, making sure gear isn't entering the living quarters.
Yeah.
A lot of thought was put into that, and you can see it.
Yeah.
So,
And I've been really impressed with the way our folks have adopted that
right.
as well. That's another thing is you can put all those things in place, but if your folks aren't, educated about it and aren't willing to put the effort forward, a lot of that doesn't mean much. But it would seem to me in the times that I've been out there and watched, our folks really embraced it, and they've done a really good job of utilizing those things that have been put into place to help themselves and to help each other.
Yeah, for sure.
So. Well, we sure appreciate it. We appreciate your whole team's effort here this week. We're excited to continue that work and see what those studies come back with and what we can do to continue to improve.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thanks again for having us. And I do, most of my work is on the National Firefighter Registry for Cancer and other research studies. But our group, the other folks that we're here with, Carl Feldman, Hannah Eck, they're the ones leading the Hannah Eck, specifically leading the diesel exhaust exposure assessment. So moving forward, they are the point of contacts for that conversation. I think they did a really great job in sort of getting us out here and leading the effort to move this project forward. So,
yeah, and they for sure know their stuff.
They do.
And hanging out with them, they definitely know what they're doing, and
yeah,
that's impressive. The whole team, for that matter, it was
sure.
nice. So greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming in today. This was nice, and they'll allow us to share it with many more people, and including West Des Moines and Ankeny folks. So we'll make sure we get it out to them, and really appreciate you coming out.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
Yep.